I lost my third baby with my mother-in-law's hand rubbing circles on my back like she was some kind of saint. Breathe, honey, Linda whispered while I was bent over a hospital trash can, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. My husband, Derek, stood by the wall staring at his phone like he was waiting for a weather update, not watching his wife fall apart. That was the night something in me went cold. Before all that, I used to think I had a good life. Not perfect, just good in the regular, boring way people pray for when they've had enough drama. I was 29, worked long shifts at a dental office, packed my lunch most days, and still got stupid excited over clearance candles and fresh sheets. Derek and I had been married 4 years. He was quiet, handsome in that clean-cut way, and good at saying the right thing in front of other people. That man adores you, folks used to tell me. Yeah, sure. We lived in a small brick house on the edge of town with a narrow porch and a maple tree that dropped leaves into the gutters every fall. I had already picked out paint samples for the nursery after my first pregnancy. Soft cream. Sage green, nothing loud. I wanted a room that felt calm, safe. That first miscarriage wrecked me. The second one hollowed me out. By the third, people stopped saying, "Don't worry, your time will come," and started giving me that careful, pity-filled look that made me want to crawl out of my own skin. Linda was around for all of it. She lived 10 minutes away and let herself into my house like she paid the mortgage. At first, I thought it was kindness. She brought casseroles, folded towels, wiped down my counters, and told everyone I was like the daughter she never had. She said it's so sweet too. Smooth as butter, but sometimes her sweetness sat wrong with me, like milk that hadn't turned yet but was real close. After my second miscarriage, she hugged me tight in my kitchen and said, "Some women just aren't built for stress, Ava. Your body absorbs everything." I remember going still in her arms because that sounded less like comfort and more like blame. Derek didn't hear it that way, of course. He never heard her the way I did. If I brought something up, he'd sigh and act tired. "Babe, that's just how mom talks." Or, "You know she means well." Or my personal favorite, "Not everything is a dig." Funny how the digs always landed in me and never in him. After the third miscarriage, Linda got even more involved. She insisted on cooking for me because I was too weak to stand over a stove. She started bringing over soups, teas, little oat bars wrapped in wax paper, all this soft comfort food that made her look thoughtful. Derek loved it, said I should be grateful somebody cared enough to help. I tried, Lord, I tried, but grief changes your senses. It sharpens some things and blurs others. I would sit at the kitchen table with one of Linda's little bowls in front of me and notice weird stuff I might have missed before. A bitter smell hiding under the chicken broth. Powdery grit at the bottom of my tea. The way Linda watched me take the first bite without blinking. The way Derek always found a reason not to eat what she made for me. One night she brought over a rice pudding with cinnamon on top. "You need something gentle," she said, setting it down in front of me. I took one spoonful and froze. It tasted off, sweet at first, then something sharp and chalky underneath. Not spoiled, just wrong. Linda tilted her head. "Well," I looked at Derek, "did you try this?" He didn't even reach for the spoon. "No, babe, it's for you." "For me," I repeated. Linda gave a tiny laugh. "Don't start being difficult." Difficult, that word stuck to me. I smiled, but it felt tight. "I'm not being difficult, it just tastes strange." And right there, for one quick second, something passed between them. Derek looked at Linda. Linda looked at Derek. It was fast, but not fast enough. Then Derek rolled his eyes. "Everything tastes strange to you lately." There it was, that little turn, that soft shove back into the corner where crazy women get parked. I put the spoon down. Linda picked it up and took the smallest fake bite I've ever seen in my life. Barely touched her lips. "Tastes fine to me." My chest started beating hard, not because I had proof, I didn't, not yet. But because for the first time my fear had shape, small shape, fuzzy shape, but shape all the same. That night, after they both left the kitchen, I dumped the rest of the pudding into a zip bag instead of the trash. I don't know what made me do it. Instinct maybe, grief, rage, maybe some deep part of me already knew I wasn't losing babies by bad luck alone. I stood there in the dark kitchen, holding that cold little bag in my hand, and listened to Linda laugh in my living room while Derek laughed right along with her. That was the moment I stopped asking myself if something was wrong. I started asking how long it had been happening. I barely slept after that. Every creak in the house sounded louder than it should, the fridge humming, the pipes ticking. Derek snoring beside me like nothing in the world was wrong. I lay on my back staring at the ceiling fan, one hand over my stomach, empty again, and kept replaying that look between him and Linda in the kitchen. People love saying a woman just knows. That sounds cute in movies. In real life, it feels ugly. It feels like your body catches the truth before your mind is ready to hold it. The next morning, I woke up with a plan so small it almost felt silly. I was going to stop eating anything Linda gave me, that was it. No speech, no fight, no big scene. I just wanted to see what changed when I quietly stepped out of her hands. Linda came by around noon with soup in a glass container and one of those sad little smiles she wore when she wanted credit for being caring. "I made butternut squash," she said, walking straight into my kitchen, easy on the stomach. I stayed by the sink. "Thanks, I already ate." Her smile twitched. "You already ate? Yeah, what?" "A sandwich." She set the soup down a little too hard. "A sandwich?" she repeated, like I'd said I ate drywall. Derek was in the den, half listening. "Mom was just trying to help." I looked at him. "I said thank you." Linda folded her hands. "Sweetheart, after everything that's happened, you should be more careful about what you put into your body." There it was again, not support, control. I gave her a tired smile. "Exactly." For a second her eyes went flat, empty, cold. Then she smoothed her face right back out. "Well, I'll leave it here." The minute she left, I poured the soup into another zip bag. By the end of that week, I had 4 samples in my freezer: soup, tea, rice pudding. A blueberry muffin she insisted I eat warm. Every single thing smelled normal at first. Then not normal, bitter, dusty, chemical, faint, but there, I didn't tell Derek I wanted to, I really did. But somewhere along the way, my husband had become a hallway that led nowhere. Every time I brought him fear, it came back to me dressed up as stress, hormones, grief, overthinking. I was done handing him pieces of myself just to watch him toss them back, so I started watching instead. Linda always pushed food on me when Derek was around, but never when we were truly alone for long. She liked witnesses. She liked performance. If I said no, she'd get soft and wounded in front of him. "I'm only trying to help." Then Derek would look at me like I just kicked a puppy across the room, and Derek had changed too. At first I blamed grief, then I started noticing the details. He had a new passcode on his phone. He took calls outside. He showered the second he got home some nights, like he needed to wash another life off his skin before walking into mine. And he was weird about his shirts. There was one pale blue button-down he started wearing more than usual. One night while I was doing laundry, I picked it up and caught a smell that was not mine, not detergent, not his cologne. Something sweet and cheap like vanilla body spray from a mall store. I held that shirt in both hands until my fingers went numb. When he came into the laundry room, I didn't even look up. "Who wears vanilla perfume?" He laughed too fast. "What?" I lifted the shirt a little. "This," he shrugged. "Probably from work. People hug, elevators exist, air exists." I gave a short laugh because wow. "Air exists?" He leaned against the doorframe, smiling like I was adorable for trying. "You've been on edge lately, Ava." That phrase, on edge, crazy with better branding. I tossed the shirt into the basket and said nothing. But inside, something locked into place. Linda was one problem, Derek was another, and somehow deep in my bones I knew those two problems touched. A few days later, I got my first break. Linda called while I was in the grocery store. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, all syrup and concern. "Ava, honey, I made your tea mix, the one that helps your nerves. I left it in the blue tin above the fridge in case you're resting when I stop by. Love you." I stood frozen in the cereal aisle with my cart half turned and listened to it again. The blue tin. I had never seen a blue tin above the fridge. I left my cart right there and drove home. The house was quiet. Derek was at work. Linda wasn't there yet. I dragged a chair over, climbed up, and felt around above the fridge until my fingers hit metal. A round blue tin, cold and light. Inside were tea bags, sure. And underneath them, tucked in wax paper, was a small clear packet of pale powder. My whole body went hot, then freezing cold. I stared at it so long my eyes watered. No label, no name, just powder. I heard tires on the gravel outside. "Linda." I put everything back exactly how I found it, climbed down and stepped away just as the back door opened. "Ava," she called in that sweet voice. I turned toward the kitchen, forcing my face blank. And for the first time, I knew for sure I wasn't imagining a damn thing. Linda came into the kitchen carrying a tote bag and wearing that same soft face she used on church women and cashiers and anyone else she wanted charmed. "There you are," she said. "I knocked." "I was in the bathroom," I lied. She set her bag on the counter and looked around once, quick and sharp, like she was checking the room had stayed the way she left it. Then her eyes landed near the fridge. On the chair I had not pushed all the way back. My heart gave one hard thump. She looked at the chair, then at me. "Why is that there?" I kept my voice flat. "Light bulb over the sink." She held my face for a beat too long. Then she smiled. "You should have waited for Derek." That was her thing, make me small, make me helpless, make me sound like a child who should not touch anything without permission. I shrugged. "It's a chair, Linda. Not a ladder to the moon." Her smile thinned. She brought the blue tin down herself a minute later like she had suddenly remembered it. "I made more of your calming tea," she said, setting it right in front of me. "You need rest. Your body has been through so much." My body, always my body, my weakness, my nerves, my fault. She opened the tin and reached for a tea bag, but I caught something this time. Her hand moved over the top layer too carefully, protecting whatever sat under it. I stepped closer. "I think I'll make it later." She shut the lid right away. "No, now is better." I looked at her hand on the tin. "You seem really invested in this tea." Her mouth moved, but no sound came for a second, just 1 second. Then she gave a little laugh. "Good Lord, Ava, it's tea, not a blood oath." I laughed too, like she had said something funny. But inside, I was done being afraid of the shape of the truth. I wanted the truth itself. That night, I waited until Derek was asleep. Then I took the packet from the blue tin, slipped it into a sandwich bag, and replaced it with a folded piece of white paper cut to the same size. My hands were steady. That scared me more than anything. The next morning, I called my cousin Nina. Nina was the kind of woman nobody played with twice. She was a nurse, a single mom, and the only person in my family who never told me to keep the peace when peace was clearly killing me. We had not talked much during the miscarriages because I got quiet when I was hurting, but the minute she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she said. I locked myself in my car in the grocery store parking lot and told her everything. The food, the powder, the way Derek kept brushing me off, the shirt that smelled like somebody else, the look between him and Linda, all of it. Nina was silent for a long second. Then she said, very calm, "Do not eat one more thing from that woman." "I haven't." "Good, bring me the packet and the freezer bags." "You think I'm not crazy?" "Ava," she said, and her voice went hard, "I think somebody got way too comfortable around you." I started crying then. Not loud, just this quiet leaking I couldn't stop. Because when somebody finally believes you, the body lets go a little. I drove to her apartment that evening. Nina spread everything out on her kitchen table like evidence from a crime show. She didn't touch the packet with bare hands. She used gloves from a box under her sink and sealed each sample into clean containers. "You need the stuff tested," she said. "How?" "I know a lab tech from the hospital who does private chain of custody consulting for attorneys and insurance cases. He can at least tell us if this is some vitamin powder or something nastier." My stomach flipped. "Attorneys? Relax, I didn't say court, I said facts." Facts, I wanted those more than sleep. Over the next 2 days, Linda kept coming by and her mood got weird fast, sharper, less patient. She opened cabinets without asking. She checked the trash. She hovered when I made my own coffee. Once she even asked, all casual, "Did you finish the tea?" I looked right at her and said, "Not yet." She nodded slowly. "You really should." That same night, Derek came home late. Again, he smelled like soap and outside air, but not work, not exactly. He tossed his keys in the bowl and kissed my cheek like he was checking off a task. I asked, "Where were you?" "At work." "You sure?" He looked at me, tired and annoyed. "Here we go. Just asking." "No, you're fishing." I folded my arms. "Funny, I feel like I'm drowning." He stared at me for a second, then laughed under his breath like I was being dramatic for sport. "Ava, you need help, real help." There it was, the gaslighting, clean, easy, practiced. I almost smiled because now I could see it. The next afternoon, Nina called me. Her voice was low. "They found something." My grip tightened on the phone. "What?" "Not enough for a full legal panel yet, but enough to tell you this wasn't harmless." I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. Nina took a breath. "Baby, somebody was putting something in your food that had no business being there." And suddenly the whole house felt like it had teeth. Nina came over that night instead of making me drive. She walked in carrying takeout and a face that told me she was trying real hard not to scare me worse than I already was. She set the food on the counter, locked the back door, and said, "Sit down." I sat. She stayed standing for a second, then finally said, "The lab guy can't give a full report without more formal steps, but he said the powder was not some harmless tea additive. It looked like crushed medication mixed with something else. Enough to mess with the body, enough to be dangerous." I felt like the room tilted a little. "Dangerous how? He wouldn't guess past that," she said, "but he told me one thing very clearly. Nobody should have been feeding that to you without your knowledge. Feeding that to you, not an accident, not a mix-up, not me being dramatic." I stared at the table so hard my eyes burned. "So I'm not crazy?" Nina leaned down and took my hand. "No, baby, you've been played." The worst part was, hearing it out loud didn't make me feel better, it made everything uglier. Because once the truth has a name, you start looking back at every moment it touched, every bowl of soup, every cup of tea, every time Linda told me my body was weak, every time Derek told me I was imagining things. I got up and walked to the sink because if I stayed sitting, I thought I might throw up. "Why?" I whispered. Nina didn't answer right away, because sometimes the truth shows up before the reason does. We heard Derek's truck pull in 10 minutes later. Nina's face changed fast. Calm, sharp, ready. Derek walked in, saw her, and stopped. "Oh, hey." Nina gave him a flat look. "Hey." He loosened his tie and glanced at me. "What's going on?" I turned around slowly. "You tell me." That made him frown. "What's that supposed to mean?" I stepped closer. "It means I found the packet in the blue tin above my fridge." His face did something strange then, not shock. Not confusion, a flicker, fast, then gone. He looked at Nina. "She's spiraling again." Again, that word hit me like a slap. Nina folded her arms. "Careful." Derek sighed like he was the one being burdened. "My mom was making herbal tea for her, that's all. Ava's been in a bad place and now she's twisting stuff." I laughed, not because it was funny, because wow, he said it so smooth, like he'd already practiced. I looked him dead in the face. "Then why did the lab say it wasn't harmless?" His jaw tightened. "There it was, tiny but real." He recovered fast. "What lab?" Nina answered before I could. "The kind that doesn't care about your little stories." He stared at her. Then at me. "You took food to a lab, are you serious?" "Yes," I said. He rubbed his mouth, pacing now. "This is insane. This is exactly what I mean. You are grieving and paranoid and dragging my mother into it because you need somebody to blame. Need somebody to blame." I felt my whole chest go cold. Because that was it right there. That was the frame they had built around me. Sad wife, broken body, unstable mind. If I cried, I was unstable. If I stayed calm, I was cold. If I asked questions, I was paranoid. No matter what I did, I landed in the cage they made. Nina stepped between us a little. "Funny thing," she said, "people telling the truth usually don't work this hard." Derek pointed at the door. "You need to leave?" "No," I said quietly. He looked at me. I looked right back. "She stays." For the first time in a long time, Derek seemed unsure of the room, like he had walked into a script and somebody changed the lines. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. We all looked at it. He snatched it too fast, but not before I saw the name on the screen. Kelsey, just Kelsey, no last name, no work label, and beside it a heart. Something inside me went still. Derek turned the phone over. "Work." I smiled at him then, a small, tired smile. "Sure," I said. He stared at me for one long second, and I swear he knew right then that I had stopped being the woman he could push around. That night, after Nina left, Derek slept in the guest room without me asking, and around 1:13 in the morning, while the house was dead quiet, I heard the back door open. Soft, careful. Like somebody thought I was already broken enough not to notice. I did not move when I heard the back door. I stayed in bed, eyes open, breath slow, every muscle locked tight under the blanket. The house was dark except for a thin stripe of porch light cutting under my bedroom door. I heard soft steps in the kitchen. One pause, then the quiet scrape of a chair leg against the floor, the chair by the fridge. My heart started pounding so hard it hurt. I slid one hand off the mattress and grabbed my phone. I kept the screen dim and eased out of bed inch by inch. The hallway carpet helped. No creaks, no sound. Just that slow, ugly feeling spreading through me like ice water. When I reached the corner by the kitchen, I stopped and looked. Linda was standing on the chair in her night robe, her gray hair pinned up messy, one hand braced on top of the fridge. The blue tin sat open in her lap. She was frowning down into it, moving the tea bags around faster now. Nervous, angry, looking for the packet, I lifted my phone and hit record. For a second, I almost stepped out right then. Almost called her out, almost screamed so loud the walls shook. But rage is loud, smart is quiet, and I was done being loud too soon. Linda climbed down, still muttering under her breath. Where is it? Where is it? Then she went still. My freezer. She turned toward it. I backed up so fast my shoulder hit the hallway wall. I froze. She listened. I stopped breathing. After a long second, she opened the freezer anyway. I heard bags shift, containers move, the crackle of plastic. Then, low and sharp, not sweet at all, she whispered, "Little bitch." That one whisper did something to me, because until then, some tiny piece of me still wanted to believe there was a reason. A twisted reason, some grief-crazy, control-freak reason. But in that moment, hearing her say it like that with pure hate in her voice, I understood something simple and ugly. She did not pity me, she enjoyed me being weak. Linda shut the freezer, moved the chair back, and left through the same back door. I stood in the hall shaking so hard I had to sit on the floor. The next morning, Derek acted normal. That was the sick part. He came into the kitchen yawning, poured coffee, kissed the top of my head, and asked if I wanted toast. Toast? Like his mother had not broken into my kitchen at 1 in the morning to search for the poison she'd been feeding me. I looked at him over my mug. "Did your mom stop by last night?" His hand paused on the bread bag for half a second, then he shrugged. No idea, no idea." I almost laughed. Instead I said, "Funny. I heard somebody in the kitchen." He turned around and gave me that tired, patient look he used when he wanted to make me feel childish. "Ava, you were probably dreaming." Dreaming, there it was again, lie, shrink me, move on. I nodded slowly, "Yeah, maybe," but inside I was done trying to drag the truth out of him with questions. Questions gave him room. I needed evidence that took the air out of the room, so I called Nina. She came over after work with a man named Malik, her friend from high school. Malik fixed phones, cameras, laptops, whatever people broke or wanted hidden. He was quiet, broad-shouldered, and did not waste words. Nina trusted him, and that was enough for me. We sat at my dining table while Derek was at work, and I showed them the video from my phone. It was shaky and dark, but you could clearly see Linda at the fridge, the chair, the blue tin. Malik watched it twice. "You want cameras?" "Yes. Inside only, for now," he nodded. "Kitchen, hallway, living room, back door angle, tiny ones, motion alert to your phone." I swallowed. "Can they be seen?" "Not unless somebody knows exactly where to look." Nina leaned back in her chair. "Do it." Malik worked fast. One camera went inside a fake smoke detector shell over the kitchen arch. One sat inside a little black charging block near the coffee maker. Another caught the back door. He linked everything to an app on my phone under a boring fake name, so if Derek ever saw it, it would look like some storage program. When he finished, he looked at me and said, "Now you wait." Waiting turned out to be its own kind of hell. For 2 days, nothing happened. Linda came by once with banana bread. I threw it away after she left. Derek came home late both nights, smelled clean, smelled wrong, and then on the third day my phone buzzed while I was at work. Motion detected, kitchen. My hands went cold so fast I almost dropped the phone. I locked myself in the supply closet and opened the app. Linda stood at my counter in a pale pink sweater, smiling to herself like she was humming inside. She took a small bottle from her purse, white cap, dark glass. Not the powder this time, liquid. I watched her pour a little into the soup warming on my stove, not a guess, not a feeling, not a fear. I watched her do it. Then, like the devil wanted to hand me a second gift, Derek walked into frame. Not surprised to see her, not confused. He shut the back door behind him, stepped up beside her and said, clear as day, "Not too much. She got suspicious last time." My knees almost gave out. Linda snapped, "Then maybe you should have kept your little girlfriend from calling during dinner." Girlfriend? Derek dragged a hand over his face. "Kelsey is not the problem right now, Kelsey." I was staring so hard my eyes blurred. Linda lowered her voice, but the camera still caught it. "Get rid of that girl before you ruin everything." He laughed under his breath. "You're one to talk." And then they both smiled like this was a mess to manage, like I was a chore. Like the babies I lost were just the cost of keeping their ugly little world in place. I slapped a hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound in that supply closet. Because in 1 minute and 18 seconds I got more truth than I had in 4 years of marriage. And I knew exactly what kind of revenge I wanted. Not fast, not loud, not clean. I wanted them to feel safe right up until the floor dropped out. The second I saw that video, I stopped thinking like a hurt wife. I started thinking like a patient one. Nina sat across from me at her kitchen table while the clip played again on my phone. Linda pouring something into my soup, Derek stepping in like it was normal, his voice low and casual, not too much. She got suspicious last time. Nina hit pause and looked at me. Whatever you do next, don't do it mad. I am mad. I know, she said, that's why you need a plan. Malik leaned back in his chair, arms folded. People like that don't fall from one hit, they fall when they stop trusting each other. That line stayed with me all the way home, all through the night. By morning, I knew what I was going to do. I was going to let them think they still had me, so I got soft again, not really, just on the outside. I thanked Linda for the next soup she brought over. I even took a spoonful in front of her, let it touch my lips, then carried the bowl to the sink later and poured it out while the faucet ran. I let Derek put his hand on my back when he passed me in the hall. I stopped asking questions. I stopped staring too long. I smiled when I needed to, nodded when I had to, and just like that, both of them relaxed. It was almost insulting how fast it worked. Linda came back to her old sweet voice. "That's better," she said one afternoon, patting my hand at the table. "You've seemed more like yourself, like myself, the woman they could manage." Derek got looser too. He stopped guarding every word. He left his phone out more. He took calls in the backyard but didn't walk as far from the house. One night he even kissed me on the forehead and said, "I'm glad you're doing better." I looked up at him and said, "Me too." It nearly made me sick how easy that came out. A couple days later, Malik got the next piece we needed. Derek had left his phone charging in the kitchen and gone upstairs to shower. I sent one quick text and Malik came through the back door like we had arranged. He did not explain what he was doing and I did not ask. I just stood by the sink, hands damp, listening to the shower run upstairs while he worked fast and quiet. 3 minutes later, he gave me one short nod and left. That night, Nina called me over. We sat close together on her couch, her lamp throwing warm yellow light over the room while Malik pulled things up on a laptop. Messages, photos, bank alerts, notes, more than I was ready for. Kelsey was 23, not a child, but young enough to make my stomach turn. She worked at a lounge downtown, brown hair, bright smile, tiny gold necklace in every picture. Derek had been seeing her for almost 8 months. 8 months. He told her I was fragile. He told her our marriage had been dead for years. He told her I couldn't handle the truth and that he was waiting for the right time to leave. He told her the house would be sold once I finally snapped and that then they could start fresh somewhere warmer. I sat there so still I barely blinked. Then Malik opened another thread. "Linda, I thought I was ready. I was not." Her messages were colder than her voice ever was in person. "Keep her calm. She's easier to manage when she's tired. Last time was too much. Watch what she eats from outside the house." Derek had answered like a lazy partner in some dirty little business. "I know, she's suspicious. Not for long." At one point, Linda wrote she always wanted a baby more than she wanted sense. I had to get up and walk to Nina's bathroom because I thought I might scream. Instead, I stood over her sink and stared at my own face in the mirror. I looked normal. That was the scary part. A woman can have her whole life rot underneath her and still look normal in a bathroom mirror. When I came back out, Nina was waiting with a glass of water. "You don't have to do this tonight." "Yes," I said. "I do?" Because now I knew what they were building, not just an affair, not just cruelty. They were wearing me down on purpose, making me look weak, making me easy to blame. If I cried, I was unstable. If I got sick, it was stress. If I broke, they were ready with a story, and that story had my name on it, so I made my own. Over the next few days, I moved quietly. I took my passport, my grandmother's ring, my extra bank card, and every piece of evidence to Nina's place. I opened a new account for my paycheck. I copied our savings records. I took pictures of the house, the furniture, the files in Derek's desk, even the drawer where he kept spare cash rolled up in rubber bands like he was smarter than banks. Then I started writing 3 different messages. One for Kelsey, one for Linda, one for Derek. I kept them short. That was important. Short messages hit harder, less room to lie around them. Kelsey's message included one clip only. Linda pouring liquid into my soup while Derek stood beside her. No speech from me, no drama, just the truth and one sentence: you weren't sleeping with a liar, you were sleeping next to this. Linda's message had screenshots from Derek's chats with Kelsey, the parts where he called Linda controlling, suffocating, and an old freak who thinks she runs my life. I added one line: he laughs at you when you leave the room. Derek's message was the cruelest. It had no video, no explanation, just a photo of the blue tin, the powder packet, and one screenshot of his own text to Linda. Not too much. She got suspicious last time. Under it, I wrote, I know everything, keep smiling. I stared at those 3 messages for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. Nina stood in the doorway watching me, silent. Once I do this, I said, it starts. She nodded. Then let it. So I pressed send. And less than 30 seconds later, Derek's phone rang in the other room, then rang again, then Linda's name lit up on his screen. The first phone call came to Derek. The second came to Linda. The third was Kelsey, and just like that, my quiet little house turned into a room full of smoke. Derek stared at his screen like it had bitten him. His face lost color so fast it almost made me laugh. He picked up the phone, looked at me, then looked away. I was sitting on the couch with a blanket over my legs, calm as anything. You gonna get that? I asked. He swallowed. It's nothing. His phone rang again. Linda, he declined it. Then Kelsey called right after. That when he answered, I watched his whole body tighten. Hey, he said, too low. Then he turned and walked toward the kitchen. I got up quietly and followed just enough to hear pieces. No, listen to me, Kelsey, stop. That's not what it looks like. He lowered his voice more, but I still caught one part clear as day. She went through my phone. I smiled to myself, liar, still lying. Even while choking on the truth. He ended the call hard, then stood with both hands on the counter like he might fall through it. A second later, his phone buzzed again. This time he just stared. I stepped into the doorway. Everything okay? He turned so fast it almost looked guilty. Why would you ask that? I shrugged. You look sick. He stared at me for a long second, trying to read me, trying to see if I knew. I gave him nothing. Then the front door opened without a knock. Linda, of course. She came in with her purse half open and her face twisted up so tight the sweet act was gone. She looked at Derek first, not me. What did you do? She snapped. He glanced at me, then grabbed her arm. Not here. Linda yanked away from him. Not here. She sent me your messages with that girl. I let my mouth fall open just a little, not too much, just enough. What girl? I said. Both of them turned toward me. For 1 second, nobody spoke. Derek recovered first. She's confused. Linda looked at him like she wanted to claw his face off. I'm confused. She pulled out her phone and shoved it at him. You called me controlling. You called me an old freak. I nearly had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. Derek hissed, lower your voice. Oh, now you want quiet? She snapped. I stood there in my own living room watching them tear little strips off each other, and it was the first deep breath I'd taken in months. Derek looked at me again. Ava, go upstairs. That almost made me laugh out loud. No, I said softly, I think I'll stay. Linda's eyes moved to me then, sharp and ugly. Did you do this? I met her stare. Do what? She stepped toward me. Don't play games with me. Nina's voice came back to me then. Don't do it mad, so I stayed still. You should be careful with that tone, I said. People might start hearing the real you. Linda's face changed, not shocked, recognized. Like she finally saw that I was not the same woman she had been feeding fear to with a spoon. Derek moved between us. Enough. His phone buzzed again. He looked down. Kelsey had sent a message this time, not a call. I saw only part of it over his arm, but it was enough. Do not contact me again. If you come near me, I swear. He turned the screen away too late. Linda saw it and something snapped in her face. This is because of her, she said, pointing at me but talking to him. I told you to end that nonsense months ago. Months ago, there it was, not surprise, not denial, knowledge she had known the whole time. Derek dragged a hand through his hair. You are not helping. Linda laughed, short and mean. Helping? I have been cleaning up your mess for years. Years, that word hung in the room like a blade. I looked at Derek. Years, he looked trapped now. Real trapped, no clean lie available fast enough. Ava, he said, putting on that calm voice again, the one he used when he wanted me to feel foolish, you're taking things the wrong way. Wrong way, amazing, even now. Even with his mother standing 3 feet away, raging with my proof in her hand, he still thought maybe he could tilt my head and make me doubt my own eyes, so I gave him the smallest smile. "No," I said. "I'm finally taking them the right way." That shut him up. For a second the whole room went still, then Linda's phone buzzed. She looked down, read, and went white. Derek saw her face and said, "What?" Linda gripped the phone so hard her knuckles turned pink. "You told her where I live." He stared at her. "What?" "She says she's outside." My skin prickled. Kelsey, I had not told her to go there, which made it even better because nothing wrecks cruel people faster than consequences that show up uninvited. Then we heard it, 3 hard knocks at the front door, not polite, not scared, angry, and Linda whispered for the first time since I had known her, "Oh my God." Nobody moved at first. Those 3 knocks hit the house like gunshots. Derek looked at Linda. Linda looked at the door. I just stood there and listened to the silence that came after, thick and strange and almost sweet. Then the knocking came again, harder. Derek swore under his breath and strode to the door. Linda grabbed his arm. "Don't open it." He jerked free. "What do you want me to do, hide in the closet?" I stayed back by the hall, folded my arms, and watched. When Derek opened the door, Kelsey was standing there in ripped jeans, a black jacket, and a face full of fury. She looked younger in person than she did in the pictures, younger and meaner. Her eyes went straight past Derek and landed on Linda. "You," she said. Linda stiffened. "Excuse me." Kelsey stepped inside without waiting. "You were poisoning her." She pointed toward me. "Are you out of your damn mind?" Linda drew herself up fast, putting on that offended, polished tone she used when she wanted to sound respectable. "I don't know what lies he told you." "Save it," Kelsey snapped. "I saw the video." Derek shut the door behind her. "Keep your voice down." Kelsey turned on him so fast he took a step back. "Don't tell me what to do. You said your wife was unstable. You said she made things up. You said your mom was just overbearing." Her laugh was sharp and ugly. "Overbearing? She's out here drugging people like a psycho." Linda gasped like she had been slapped in church. "How dare you?" Kelsey moved closer. "No, how dare you?" And then it happened. Not a big dramatic fight, not screaming and broken glass right away, just the truth breaking the room apart piece by piece. Derek tried to grab control first. "Kelsey, leave." "No, now, no," she said again louder. "You don't get to lie to me, lie to her, and then start giving orders." I watched his face change. The charm was gone now, the soft husband act, the patient tone. He looked mean, not loud mean, cold mean, the kind that had probably been there all along. "Ava," he said without looking at me, "go upstairs." I laughed. All 3 of them looked at me. It was not a sweet laugh. It was tired, thin. Almost amused. "Still trying that?" I asked. Derek's jaw clenched. Linda jumped in. "This is exactly what she wanted. Drama, chaos. She's been trying to drive a wedge between people for months." That was rich. I tilted my head. "By doing what?" "Eating soup." Kelsey actually barked out a laugh at that. Linda shot her a murderous look. Then Kelsey reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "You know what? Fine, let's stop talking." She hit play. It was the same clip I sent her. Linda pouring liquid into the soup, Derek standing beside her, his voice clear enough to make the room shrink around us, not too much. She got suspicious last time. Nobody breathed while it played. When it ended, Linda looked at Derek like she wanted him dead. Derek looked at the floor, and I looked at both of them and thought, good, sit in it. Linda found her voice first. "You idiot," she hissed at him. "I told you to be careful." Derek snapped back, "Me, you're the one who kept pushing it." Kelsey looked between them, disgust all over her face. "You both are sick." Then she turned to me. That was the part I did not expect to hurt, because her face changed when she looked at me. The anger dropped. What came in behind it was shame. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "I swear to God I didn't know." I believed her. Not because she deserved it, not because I liked her, but because some lies are easy to spot once you've had enough of them. I nodded once. "I know." Derek stared at me. "You know?" "Yeah," I said. "You're not the only one who can read people." That landed. He hated being seen. Kelsey looked at him one last time. "Lose my number." Then she walked out just like that. No dramatic exit line, no tears, just disgust and the front door slamming shut behind her. Linda rounded on Derek the second Kelsey left. "Look what you did." He laughed once, disbelieving. "What I did?" She stepped closer, voice low and vicious now. "If you had listened to me, none of this would be happening." I stood very still. Because there it was again, not regret, not horror, only blame. They were not sorry for what they had done to me, they were sorry the lie got messy. Derek pointed at me. She did this. Linda swung toward me next. What else do you have? There it was, fear. Finally, I met her eyes and said, enough. That one word changed the room. Derek moved first, crossing toward me, and for one ugly second I thought he might grab me. But before he could get close, Nina came through the back door like a storm in boots. She took one look at his face and stepped between us. Try it. Derek stopped. He knew Nina knew better. Behind her came Malik, calm as ever, carrying a small cardboard box. He set it on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were copies, screenshots, printed messages, bank records, photos, dates, every ugly thing I had gathered. Linda stared at the box like it might bite her. Malik looked at Derek, then Linda. She made copies in case anybody gets stupid. Nobody spoke. I walked over, lifted one folded paper from the top and handed it to Derek. He opened it. It was a withdrawal notice, not from our joint savings, from the private cash account he thought I knew nothing about. His head jerked up. What is this? I smiled at him. The first thing I took back. And that was the exact moment he realized I had not just exposed them. I had been inside their little world, opening doors they forgot to lock. Derek looked from the paper in his hand to me like he had never seen me before. The first thing, he said. I nodded. The first thing. His face went hard. How much? I gave him the same calm look he had used on me for months. Enough. Linda took a step closer to the coffee table and started flipping through the copies with shaking fingers. Screenshots, dates, messages, account numbers with the last digits blacked out, notes in my handwriting. Little pieces of truth stacked neat and quiet. You snooping little snake, she whispered. Nina laughed once. That's funny coming from the lady putting mystery juice in soup. Linda ignored her. Her eyes were darting now, moving too fast. Looking for the weak spot, looking for the hole she could still crawl through. You can't prove any of this means what you think it means. Malik spoke for the first time in minutes. That's the nice thing about cameras, they don't think. That shut her up. Derek threw the paper back onto the table. What do you want? That question had been waiting for me all along. Not what happened, not why, what do you want? Like pain was a bill and I was there to name my price. I looked at him. Really looked at the man who watched me lose 3 babies and still stood in my kitchen talking about not too much. At the husband who had turned my fear into a story about my weakness. At the son who let his mother poison his wife so life would stay easy for him, and I smiled. I wanted you scared, I said. Now I want you stuck. Linda's head jerked toward Derek. What does that mean? I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out one last folded paper, then I handed it to her. She opened it slowly. It was the lease. A 1-bedroom apartment in another town, my name only, paid 6 months ahead. At the bottom was a little note in my handwriting. I'm gone. Linda's mouth fell open. You're leaving? I already left, I said. That was the final turn of the knife. Because they had both been so busy managing me, they never noticed I had been disappearing in pieces for days. My clothes, my papers, my grandmother's ring, the box of baby things I had hidden in the closet because I could never make myself throw them out. Even the framed photo from our wedding was gone from the dresser upstairs. All that remained in this house was what I did not mind losing. Derek took off toward the bedroom. A second later we heard drawers opening, closet doors banging, his footsteps pounding from room to room. Where is your stuff? He shouted. I stayed where I was, not here. He came back down, breathing hard, eyes wild now. You drained the account. No, I said. I took my money, the money from my checks. The money I put in while you were busy buying drinks and motel rooms. Linda's face twisted. She turned on him. Motel rooms? He looked at her like he hated her. Shut up. She actually flinched. That pleased me more than it should have. Then Derek looked back at me. You think you win because you run away, run away. That word almost made me laugh. No, I said, I win because now it's just you two. The silence after that was beautiful. Because they both understood it at the same time. Kelsey was gone, I was gone, the money I could take was gone, the comfort was gone, the lie that kept them on the same side was gone. All that was left was a mother and son standing in the wreckage, each knowing the other had helped build it. Linda broke first. This is your fault. Derek stepped toward her. Mine, yes, yours. You and that stupid girl. He barked out a laugh with no humor in it. You were drugging my wife before Kelsey was even around. Nina inhaled sharply, Malik looked away, and there it was. The little truth that slipped out because angry people get sloppy. I held his gaze. Thank you, I said softly. He realized what he had just confirmed too late. Linda rounded on him with real panic now. Why would you say that? He looked sick. Because it's true. Nobody moved. Nobody needed to. Some endings do not need fire, they just need one honest second in a room full of liars. I picked up my bag from beside the couch. The strap slid over my shoulder easy, like it had been waiting there forever. Derek took one step toward me. Ava, no, just that, one word. He stopped. Linda opened her mouth too, maybe to beg, maybe to threaten, maybe to go sweet again and try that old soft voice one last time. I did not give her the chance. At the door, I looked back once. Derek stood in the middle of the room, pale and lost. Linda stood by the coffee table, clutching papers with hands that would never look clean to me again. They were finally alone with each other, exactly where I wanted them. Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, and left them there to swallow what they made.